Hello students. Today we are going to study the second poem of our book Flamingo, and the name of the poem is An Elementary School Classroom in a Slum. In this video we are going to study the first part of the poem, that is the half of the poem. The poem has been composed by Stephen Spender. An Elementary School Classroom in a Slum. As the title suggests, that here the poem is about a school classroom that has been situated in a slum. Slum is an area that is actually not developed, that is outside a city, that is deprived of all the basic needs, basic facilities. And an elementary school classroom, elementary means basic, primary. This is a primary school classroom in a slum. And here we have used two articles N and A. And students, N and A and N, they are the indefinite article. They actually denote a thing that is one in number, singular in number, mean the school. But it can be any school in any slum. This is not a particular slum and not a particular school. It means all the basic schools, all the elementary schools that are situated in any of the slum, they have the same situation. Stephen Spender is a poet who basically writes about the social injustice. And also in this poem, the poet has written about the same. If we go for the poem, then the poem, that is the elementary school classroom in a slum, it was first published in 1964 in Stephen Spender's Selected Poems. This was the first publication year, and after that, the poem has been published in many volumes. An elementary school classroom in a slum, it is perhaps the best example of Stephen Spender's political voice. Here, the poet expresses his ideological ideas that the government that should actually try to provide the equal opportunity of education to all the children actually fails to provide this. The slum children, they have no basic education, they do not have any basic facilities through which they can come out of the situation. They have the classrooms, but there is little or no hope for them in that classroom for their progress. So students, here we start the poem, and in this video we are going to study only first two stanzas of the poem. Far, far from gusty waves, the children's visage, like rootless weeds, the hair torn round their pillar. In the very beginning, the poet says that far, far from gusty waves. Gusty waves mean breezy winds, soft winds. Winds, those are the kind of actually have some kind of strongness, strength, but here that is very cool. Far, far from gusty waves. The children who are far, far, the repetition. You have to take care of the literary devices also. Here the word far, that has been repeated 2 times. So here this is repetition. Far, far from gusty waves. The children are very much far from gusty waves, from winds, from breezes, from nature. The children's faces like rootless weeds. And in the very next line, the poet compares the faces of the children with rootless weeds. Rootless, they do not have roots. And weeds, weeds are the unwanted plants. Unwanted plants that automatically grow in our gardens and that are actually torn out by the gardener and ourselves. So the children are also like weeds. The children, they are also like weeds because they are not wanted in society. Nobody wants them. Everyone wants them to be out of their society. Like the weeds that we want to be out from our gardens. So, in the very beginning, in the very first line, the poet has used 3 of the literary devices that are generally asked in examination also. Far, far, that is the repetition. Far, far from. F, 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 that is alliteration, and again 2 dissimilar objects they have been compared with like, and that is simile. The hair torn round their pillar. Next, the poet says that their hair, the hair that is actually not very neat and clean, they are torn round their pillar. Pillar means pale faces. Their faces, they do not have liveliness, and their hair, that is scattered. Then the poet described the four students of the elementary school classroom. The first, he says, the tall girl with her weighed down head. The first student that the poet describes is a tall girl and her head is weighed down. Weighed down means that is actually bent down with some weight. And what is the weight here? The weight may be of poverty, that may be of depression, because the girl, she doesn't come from a very good family. She comes from a very poor family, very dejected family, and that's why her head is weighed down. Her head is bent down with responsibilities, that with burden, etc. The first student, that is a tall girl, and the next, the paper seeming boy with red's eyes. Paper seeming boy, the boy who looks like a paper and his eyes are like rats. Two metaphors have been used in this single line. The first, the boy has been compared to paper without the use of like, so, and as. Why the boy is paper seeming? Because he is very thin, because he is malnutritioned. His rat's eyes. With rat's eyes, his eyes are like that of rats. Rat's eyes, they are always in search of something, and the boy, he is also searching some food. The stunted, unlucky heir of twisted bones, reciting a father's gnarled disease, his lesson from his desk. The next one, the third student, he is stunted. Stunted, that is not fully grown. Unlucky heir. Heir means successor of twisted bones. The third one, he is a boy who is very unlucky, who is ill-nourished, malnourished, and he is very unlucky because he has not inherited any property from his father. Rather, he has inherited a disease of twisted bones. His bones are twisted and he has inherited this disease from his father at the place of some property. Reciting a father's gnarled disease, his lesson from his desk. And he is sitting on his desk and he is not actually reciting his lesson, he is reciting or revising his father's gnarled. Gnarled means a very rough disease. His father, who is suffering from a disease, and he has given this disease in inheritance to his son also, and the son is actually revising that disease. And the fourth one, at back of the dim class, one unnoted, sweet and young. And there a boy at the back of this dim class, the class that is not having very brightness, no light, that is the dim class, and there is sitting a boy who is very unnoted. Nobody is noticing him, and he is sweet and young. His eyes live in a dream of squirrel's game in tree room other than this. His eyes, they are lost in a game. His eyes, they are lost in a dream. And he's thinking about the squirrel's game. The squirrels, those are playing outside on the tree. His attention is not in the classroom, his attention is diverted. He is looking at those squirrels and he is also having a dream of going out and having a free life. So in the very first stanza, the poet has described the children of the slum classroom. He says that the children's faces, they are like weeds. These children are unwanted. They are not wanted in society. They are very far from the free life. They are very far from nature. And they are scattered on their pale faces. They are not very neat and clean. They are not very bright. They are not very lively. Then the poet has described four children of the slum classroom. The first one is a tall girl with her weighed down head. Her head is bent down with some responsibilities and burdens. Then another one is a paper seeming boy, a boy who is very thin and his eyes have been compared with a rat. And the third one, who has inherited a disease from his father. And the fourth one, whose attention is diverted, the boy who is sitting at the very back side, we can say the backbencher, and he is sitting at the back side of the classroom and he is not having any attention in the classroom. He is thinking about something else. He is looking at the game that the squirrels have been playing outside on the tree. So this was the first stanza, and if we go for the literary devices, I have already told you that we have simile, then we have metaphor, repetition of far far, and alliteration far far from. The next stanza, the poet says, on sour cream walls. Sour, that is a shade of creamish color that is very unpleasant. And now the poet is describing the slum classroom, the walls of the slum classroom. He says that the sour cream walls, sour off-white color, of creamish color, the class that has not been whitewashed for such a long time. These walls have been decorated with donations. Donations, the people from the rich class, the people from high society, they come to the slums and they donate the things. But these things are actually of no use for these slum children. The classroom is not very well maintained. He says that the pale or the creamish walls, they have been decorated with the donation that have been given by the rich people. And what are these donations? The poet has given some examples of the donation. He says Shakespeare's head. Shakespeare's head means the picture of the face or the portrait of Shakespeare that has been decorated on that glass. And then cloudless at dawn, civilized dome riding old cities. Then there is one more picture that is of civilized dome. Civilized dome. Dome is actually the semicircle uppermost part of a building. But here the civilized dome that suggests the rising sun. Rising sun and the sky that is cloudless, that is without any cloud at the time of dawn or daybreak or early morning. Then the third one, belt, flowery, Tyrolese valley. Belt, bell shape. Flowery, full of flowers, Tyrolese valley. Tyrolese is a very beautiful valley of Austria. That is without ice, ice-free valley. That has many flowers. Open-handed map. And there is one map that is open-handed, mean an open map avoiding the world, its world. The map that is showing the world, its world. It means this is the map of the world. So some of the examples that have been decorated on the wall is Shakespeare's head, mean the portrait of Shakespeare. Then there's a picture of rising sun at the time of daybreak. And the third picture is of Tyrolese valley. That is of bell shape, that is full of flowers, that is ice free. And the another one is open-handed map avoiding the world, its world. There is a picture of map also, the map of the world. But the poet says that these things, they do not have any use for the children. And yet for the children, these windows note this map, their world. Because for the children, these windows are their world. The map has nothing to do with them. The world or the map of the world, that has no significance for them because they have not seen anything in the world. Their whole world is inside the windows or inside the slum. That is actually a kind of world for them, where all their future is painted with the fog. And here their whole future that is painted with the fog. Fog is unclarity. Mean if they will not be provided any kind of opportunities, then they live there forever and their future is like fog that is not clear. And at that time there will no significance of the map of the world because they'll never be able to see that world. Their world is their slum. A narrow street sealed in with a lead sky, far, far from rivers, capes and stars of world. For them, their narrow streets, narrow that is not very wide. Those streets, those are sealed in, mean packed or covered or shut or locked with a lead sky. Lead sky mean dark sky. The sky is dark or bent down. The streets are shut for them. And the children are far, far from rivers, capes. Capes is actually the part of land that is spread towards the sea. And stars of world. They are away from every natural object. Until and unless they are helped, they are given equal opportunities, there will be no significance of these things for the children. Here in this stanza, the poet has described some of the things that have been donated by the higher class people and that are decorated on the walls, on the discolored walls of the slum classroom. Some of these things are the portrait of Shakespeare, then the map of the world, then the early rising sun at the time of daybreak and Tyrolese valley. But these things, they have no match, no relevance with the dull life of the children, and for the children the slum is their world and they are not able to use anything that has been provided to them unless they are given the equal opportunities. So here I have also given the word meaning, and if we go for the literary devices, first walls. Walls have been given the form of sour cream, metaphor, and then the future of the kids is described as limited, mean their future has been said as narrow street. Then assonance. Assonance, students, previously also I have told you that is the repetition of similar vowel sounds. E sound has been repeated, mean in belled, flowery, Tyrolese. E sound has been repeated. Valley. Then allusion. Allusion is actually a literary device in which some famous figure or some famous place, some famous person that is mentioned in another writer's work. Here, the poet has used the famous figure of Shakespeare. Shakespeare has been mentioned in the writing of Stephen Spender and the Tyrolese Valley. That is a famous place that has been mentioned in this writing. So these are the example of allusion. When one thing, one writer, one person, one place that is mentioned in the another work, that is called the assonance. And again repetition, far, far from rivers, capes and stars of world. The word far has been repeated twice. So students, we have seen these two stanzas, and in the very next video we'll study the next two stanzas, and I have some questions for you. First one is from the first stanza, far, far from gusty waves, the children's faces like rootless weeds. The hair torn around their pillar. The tall girl with her weighed down head, the paper seeming boy with red sides. What are the children compared to? The children have been compared to the rootless weeds. Why do you think the tall girl is sitting with a weighed down head? Why her head is weighed down? Because of some dejection, some burden, some responsibilities of poverty. And then give two phrases which tell us the children are undernourished. First is paper seeming, then the red size. Red size mean always in search of food. And last, what is the condition of the boy? He is a paper seeming boy. It means he is very ill nourished. So answers have also been mentioned. I hope you have totally understood the poem. This first part of the poem. Next two stanzas we'll study in the next video. So by then, read the poem once again, understand the poem, keep learning.